The son found his mother old and malnourished, and his wife told him to ignore her. Michael Johnson felt his heart race as he looked at the hunched figure on the sidewalk of New York City's shopping district. The woman with grey hair and worn-out clothes stretched her hand toward the hurried passers-by, who ignored her pleas for help. "My God, it can't be," he murmured, stopping abruptly in the middle of the crowd. His wife Jennifer, elegant in her beige coat and carrying an expensive purse, gripped her husband's arm firmly. "Let's go, Michael. We can't be late for lunch," she said, pulling him forward. But Michael couldn't take his eyes off the elderly woman. Even with her face marked by time and hardship, he would recognize those features anywhere. It was his mother, Mrs. Ruth, whom he hadn't seen in 5 long years. "Jennifer, it's my mother," he whispered, his voice choked. "Nonsense, Michael. Your mother is well cared for at the nursing home." "She must be one of those people who take advantage of others' kindness," Jennifer replied, tightening her grip on his arm. Michael hesitated for a moment, but when he saw the woman lift her face and their eyes met, he had no doubt. It was truly Mrs. Ruth. She was much thinner, with sunken cheeks and trembling hands clutching a torn plastic bag. "Mom," he called, stepping closer slowly. Mrs. Ruth raised her tear-filled eyes, and a faint smile appeared on her chapped lips. "Michael, my son, you've grown so much," she said, her voice weak but full of emotion. "What are you doing here, Mom? Why aren't you at the nursing home?" The old woman lowered her head, ashamed. "They sent me away, son. I've been on the streets for 3 months. Jennifer approached, clearly annoyed. "Michael, this is a scam. These people study our lives and pretend to be relatives to get money." "It's not a scam, Jennifer. It's my mother," he replied firmly, kneeling beside Mrs. Ruth. "Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out." Now continuing. His mother's hands were cold and rough. Michael noticed how different she looked from the last time he'd visited her at the nursing home. Her hair, once neatly combed by the caregivers, was now tangled and dirty. The dress she wore had stains and small tears. "Mom, forgive me. I didn't know you were going through this," he said, holding her hands in his. "It's okay, my son. I know you're a busy man," Mrs. Ruth replied, trying not to show how much she'd suffered. Jennifer huffed impatiently, glancing around to see if anyone they knew was watching the scene. "Michael, people are staring. Let's handle this another way. We can call social services." "I'm not leaving my mother on the street, Jennifer. She's coming home with us." "To our home? Have you lost your mind?" Jennifer exclaimed, not caring if Mrs. Ruth heard her. Michael helped his mother stand, picking up the torn bag that held all her belongings. Inside, he could see some old clothes, a worn-out flip-flop, and a small Bible with yellowed pages. "Come on, Mom. You're staying with us," he said, ignoring his wife's furious glare. The walk to the car was tense. Jennifer strode several steps ahead, making her displeasure clear. Mrs. Ruth trembled, whether from cold or nerves, and leaned on her son's arm. "Michael, where are my grandchildren?" she asked timidly. He felt a lump in his throat. How could he explain that Jennifer had forbidden the kids from visiting their grandmother? How could he tell her that she'd said it was better they remember their grandmother as healthy, not as a sick old woman? "They are. They're at school, Mom. You'll see them at home." In the car, Jennifer maintained an icy silence the entire ride. Michael watched his mother through the rearview mirror. She gazed out the window with a mix of wonder and sadness, as if seeing the world for the first time in ages. When they arrived at the house in the upscale Upper East Side neighborhood, Mrs. Ruth was stunned by the size and elegance of the residence. It was a far cry from the modest home where she'd raised Michael in Queens. "What a beautiful house, son," she remarked, still clutching the torn plastic bag. The housekeeper, Ms. Betty, around 50 years old, was surprised to see the elderly woman entering with her employers. Jennifer walked right past her without a word, heading upstairs to the bedroom. "Miss Betty, this is my mother, Mrs. Ruth. She'll be staying with us for a while," Michael explained. Miss Betty, who always had a kind heart, smiled warmly at the visitor. "Welcome, Mrs. Ruth. You must be tired." "Thank you, dear," the elderly woman replied, touched by the kindness. Michael showed his mother the guest room. It was a well-decorated space with a comfortable bed and a private bathroom. For someone who'd spent 3 months sleeping on park benches and under awnings, it felt like a palace. "You can rest now, Mom. I'll ask Miss Betty to prepare something to eat." Alone in the room, Mrs. Ruth sat on the edge of the bed and opened her bag. Aside from a few clothes and her Bible, there were some old family photos. One showed Michael as a child, smiling in her arms. Another was from his business administration graduation day, when she'd worn her only good dress to attend the ceremony. Upstairs, in the couple's bedroom, the argument was heating up. "How could you do this to me, Michael?" Jennifer shouted. "Our life is perfect. We have a routine, social commitments, an image to uphold. And now you bring a homeless woman into our home." "Don't talk about my mother like that," he replied, trying to stay calm. "She's not the woman who raised you anymore, Michael. She's just an old lady who'll bring us trouble. And the kids? What are we going to tell them? We'll tell them the truth, that their grandmother needed help and we're taking care of her." Jennifer flopped into the armchair, covering her face with her hands. "This will ruin our reputation. What will our friends think, your business clients?" Michael looked at his wife with a mix of disappointment and anger. "I care more about my mother than what others think." "Then you'll have to choose," Jennifer said coldly. "Her or me." At that moment, they heard the gate opening. The kids were back from school. Emily, 16, walked in complaining about traffic. Jason, 12, followed close behind, carrying his heavy backpack. "Dad, why is there a strange lady in our living room?" Jason asked, having seen Mrs. Ruth talking to Miss Betty. Michael came downstairs, followed by Jennifer, who was trying to hide her irritation. "That lady is your grandmother," he explained. Emily and Jason exchanged confused glances. "But doesn't Grandma live in a nursing home?" Emily asked. "She wasn't feeling well there, so she came to stay with us for a while," Michael lied, noticing his wife's disapproving glare. The two teens looked uncomfortable. They barely knew their grandmother, as Jennifer had always discouraged visits to the nursing home with excuses about school and extracurriculars. Mrs. Ruth appeared in the living room timidly. She'd tried to tidy up a bit, smoothing her hair with her fingers and wiping her face. "Hello, my grandchildren," she said softly. Jason gave an awkward wave, but Emily, who'd inherited her father's directness, stepped closer. "Are you okay? You look a little thin." Mrs. Ruth smiled, touched by her granddaughter's concern. "I'm better now that I'm with you all." Jennifer interrupted the moment, announcing she had to leave for an urgent appointment. Truthfully, she couldn't stand being in the same room as her mother-in-law. That afternoon, Michael had to leave for an important meeting at work. Before heading out, he instructed Miss Betty to take good care of his mother and asked the kids to be kind to their grandmother. Alone with Mrs. Ruth, Miss Betty started talking and uncovered details about the elderly woman's situation that deeply moved her. "You were on the streets for 3 months?" she asked, horrified. "Unfortunately, yes, my dear. When they sent me away from the nursing home, I had nowhere to go. I tried reaching out to Michael, but his secretary always said he was busy." Miss Betty prepared a carefully made lunch for their new guest. As Mrs. Ruth ate, she noticed how the woman devoured the food like someone who hadn't had a decent meal in a long time. "Would you like seconds?" Miss Betty offered. "If it's not too much trouble," Mrs. Ruth replied, embarrassed. "Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. Meanwhile, at school, Emily couldn't focus on her classes. She kept thinking about the grandmother who had suddenly appeared at home. She vaguely remembered a few visits to the nursing home when she was younger, but they had always been brief and superficial. Jason, on the other hand, was curious about this grandmother he barely knew. During recess, he asked his friends if they spent time with their grandparents and was surprised to find out that many of them had close relationships with their older relatives. When they got home from school, they found Mrs. Ruth helping Miss Betty in the kitchen. Their grandmother was peeling potatoes and chatting cheerfully with the housekeeper. "Grandma, do you know how to cook?" Jason asked, stepping closer to the counter. "Yes, I do, my grandson. I learned to cook when I was your age. My mother used to say a woman needed to know how to take care of her family." Emily, always curious, started asking questions about her grandmother's life. "What was Dad like when he was little?" Mrs. Ruth's eyes sparkled at the memory. Your father was a very clever boy, but also very stubborn. He always said he'd get rich to give me a better life. And he did, Jason remarked. That's true, Mrs. Ruth agreed, but there was a sadness in her voice that the children didn't fully understand. When Michael came home in the late afternoon, he was moved by the scene before him. His mother was sitting on the living room couch with Jason beside her, showing old photos on his phone. Emily was on the floor organizing what looked like old documents. "What are you all up to?" he asked, smiling. "Grandma was telling us about when you were little," Emily explained. "Did you know she kept all your school drawings?" Michael walked over and saw his mother had opened an old folder filled with his childhood creations, report cards, and old photos. She had carried those treasures in her torn plastic bag during those 3 months on the streets. "Mom, why did you keep all this?" "Because they're my most precious memories, son," she replied simply. Jennifer came home in the middle of this family gathering, and her irritation was immediate. She had expected to find her mother-in-law quietly in the guest room, not integrated with the family in the main living area. "Michael, we need to talk," she said, in a tone that left no room for argument. In the bedroom, the explosion was inevitable. "You promised she'd stay discreet. Now she's all over the house influencing the kids." "She's not influencing anyone, Jennifer. She's getting to know her grandchildren." "And you think that's good?" "For the kids to see what it's like having a dependent old woman in the house. This will traumatize them." Michael sighed, tired of the argument. "What do you want me to do? Throw my mother back on the street?" "I want you to find another place for her. A better nursing home, a retirement home, anything but here." "She stays." Jennifer turned to him, her eyes flashing with anger. "So you've really made your choice. Perfect. But don't blame me for the consequences." At dinner that night, the tension was palpable. Jennifer barely spoke to her mother-in-law, answering in monosyllables when directly questioned. The kids noticed the strange mood, but didn't know how to react. Mrs. Ruth, sensing the awkwardness, tried to excuse herself early. "I'll go rest, thank you for the delicious meal," she said, rising from the table. "You don't have to go, Grandma. You can stay here with us," said Jason, surprising everyone. Emily agreed. "Yeah, really. We can watch a movie together." Jennifer stood abruptly. "I have a headache. I'm going to take some medicine." When she left, the atmosphere visibly relaxed. Michael sat beside his mother on the couch, and the kids picked an old movie playing on TV. During the film, Mrs. Ruth commented on the differences between movies today and those from her time. Her stories about the past captivated the children, who'd never had the chance to hear firsthand what life was like decades ago. "Grandma, did you date a lot when you were young?" Emily asked curiously. Mrs. Ruth laughed, a sound Michael hadn't heard in years. "I had a few suitors, yes. But your Grandpa Robert was special. He was very romantic." "How did you meet?" Jason wanted to know. "At a church fair. He asked me to dance a square dance, and I stepped on his foot 3 times. The kids laughed, and even Michael smiled, remembering the stories his father used to tell before he passed. "I miss him," Mrs. Ruth murmured. "What was he like, Grandma?" Emily asked. "Your grandpa was a hard-working, honest man. He always said family was the most important treasure a person could have." Michael felt a tightness in his chest. His father had always valued family unity, and he'd strayed so far from those values in recent years. When the kids went to bed, Michael stayed alone with his mother in the living room. "Mum, forgive me for abandoning you," he said, his voice thick. "You didn't abandon me, son. You just followed your own path. But I should have taken better care of you." Mrs. Ruth took her son's hand. "Michael, being a mother means loving without keeping score. I always knew you loved me, even from a distance." "How did you survive 3 months on the street?" She took a deep breath. "It was hard, I won't lie. But you get used to a lot when you have no choice. I slept on park benches under store awnings. Sometimes other people in the same situation helped me. Why didn't you come to me sooner?" "I tried, son. I called your office so many times, but they always said you were in a meeting. I even went there once, but security wouldn't let me upstairs." Michael fell silent, picturing his mother being turned away at the reception of his own company. Did Jennifer know I was on the street? Mrs. Ruth asked hesitantly. Michael didn't know how to answer. He wasn't even sure how much his wife knew about her mother-in-law's situation. In the bedroom, Jennifer pretended to be asleep when Michael lay down. The silence between them was deafening. The next morning, Jennifer woke early and decided to take action. While Michael was in the shower, she called several retirement homes, looking for an immediate opening. "Good morning. I'd like information about admitting a 68-year-old woman," she said into the phone. Mrs. Ruth, who had gotten up early to help Miss Betty with breakfast, overheard part of the conversation from the stairs. "Yes, as soon as possible." "It's an urgent situation," Jennifer continued. The elderly woman's heart tightened. She understood she wasn't welcome in that house and that her presence was causing problems for her son. During breakfast, Mrs. Ruth was quieter than usual. Jennifer, on the other hand, seemed strangely cheerful, as if she had solved a big problem. "Michael, can we talk after the kids leave for school?" she said, forcing a smile. Emily noticed the change in her stepmother's behavior. "Grandma, are you okay?" "You look sad," the girl asked. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just a little tired." After everyone left, Jennifer laid out her plan to Michael. "I found a wonderful retirement home in Greenwich. They have an opening and can take your mother in this week. Jennifer, we talked about this yesterday." "Michael, be reasonable. Look at her. She's clearly sick, malnourished. She needs specialized medical care that we can't provide here. She's recovering just fine at home. For now. But what if she gets worse? What if she has a health emergency in the middle of the night? Do you know how to handle that?" Michael hesitated. Jennifer seized the opportunity. "Besides, think about the kids. They're getting attached to her. It'll be even harder for everyone when she's no longer here. When she dies, you mean. Don't be cruel, Michael. Be practical." Meanwhile, Mrs. Ruth decided to take a walk in the garden. It was a beautiful space, with well-tended flowers and a small seating area with a table and chairs. She sat on a bench and watched the sunny morning. Miss Betty found her there, quietly crying. "Mrs. Ruth, what's wrong?" "I overheard her phone call, Miss Betty. She wants to send me away." Miss Betty sat beside the elderly woman. "You can't give up. Mr. Michael loves you very much. But I don't want to be the reason for fights between my son and his wife. Have you thought about talking to the kids? They seem very fond of you." Mrs. Ruth considered the suggestion. It was true. Emily and Jason had shown genuine affection for her. That afternoon, when the children returned from school, she was preparing a snack in the kitchen. The smell of homemade sweet bread filled the house. "Something smells amazing, Grandma," Jason said, peeking into the oven. "I learned this recipe from my mother. I always made it for Michael when he was your age." Emily took a bite while it was still warm. "It's delicious. Can you teach me how to make it?" "Of course, sweetheart." As they waited for the rest of the batch to finish baking, Mrs. Ruth decided to open up to her grandchildren. "Kids, I need to talk to you about something important." They sat at the kitchen table, listening intently. "I think I'll have to leave soon." "Why?" Jason asked, alarmed. "Because my being here is causing problems for your parents." Emily exchanged a meaningful glance with her brother. "Grandma, we heard them arguing last night," the girl confessed. "And we heard Mom calling nursing homes this morning," Jason added. Mrs. Ruth sighed. "You shouldn't get involved in this, my dears. These are grown-up problems." "But we don't want you to leave," Emily said firmly. "We like having you here." "And you tell really cool stories," Jason added. Just then, Jennifer returned from her afternoon activities and found the family scene in the kitchen. The smell of homemade bread and the sound of laughter irritated her deeply. "What's going on here?" she asked, her tone sharper than intended. "Grandma made sweet bread for us," Jason explained, holding up a piece. "How nice," Jennifer said, forcing a smile. "But I hope you didn't ruin your appetite for dinner." Mrs. Ruth stood up, trying to clean the mess she'd made on the counter. "Sorry about the mess, Jennifer. I'll clean it up soon. Don't worry, Miss Betty can take care of it later." The cold tone from her daughter-in-law made it clear. Mrs. Ruth was a temporary guest, not a family member. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. When Michael got home from work, he found a tense atmosphere. Jennifer was in the bedroom, on the phone discussing details about the transfer to the nursing home. The kids were visibly upset, and his mother seemed resigned. "Dad, we need to talk," Emily said, pulling him into the office. "Mom wants to send Grandma away," Jason blurted out, always direct. Michael sighed. "It's more complicated than that, kids." "No, it's not, Dad," Emily shot back. "We heard her booking a spot at the nursing home. Grandma doesn't want to go, but she doesn't want to cause trouble either." "You don't understand. Taking care of an elderly person is a huge responsibility. We can help," Jason offered. "I can talk to her, help her move around. And I can teach her how to use her phone to stay connected with us," Emily added. Michael was touched by his kid's willingness, but also worried about his marriage. "Let me handle this, okay?" That night at dinner, Jennifer announced her findings. "Michael, I made some calls today and found an excellent option in Greenwich. They have specialized doctors, activities for seniors, and it's a very peaceful environment." Mrs. Ruth kept eating in silence, but the kids looked visibly uncomfortable. "Jennifer, can we discuss this later?" Michael asked. "Why later? This is a decision that affects the whole family. I think everyone should be part of it." Emily couldn't hold back any longer. "Mum, why do you want Grandma to leave?" "Emily, this isn't your business," Jennifer scolded. "Yes, it is, because she's my grandma," the girl fired back, surprising everyone with her courage. "Emily, respect your mother," Michael interjected. "But Dad, Grandma isn't bothering anyone. She even helps in the kitchen and tells us cool stories." Jason backed up his sister. "It's true, and she makes really good sweet bread." Jennifer felt she was losing control of the situation. "You're kids and don't understand the complexities of caring for an elderly person. It's better for her to be in a specialized place." "Better for her or better for you?" Emily asked, with a maturity that stunned the adults. The silence that followed was awkward. Mrs. Ruth stood up from the table. "Excuse me, I think I'll go rest." Michael followed her to the room. "Mom, I'm sorry about the argument." "It's okay, son. Maybe Jennifer is right. Maybe it's better for me to go where I won't cause trouble." "You're not trouble at all. Michael, I've lived a long time and learned that sometimes love means knowing when to step back. I don't want my presence to ruin your marriage." "Mom, let me tell you something. When you were little and got very sick, the doctors said the treatment would be expensive. Your father and I sold our house to pay for it. We rented for years just to make sure you'd be okay." Michael felt a lump in his throat. "I didn't know that. We never wanted you to. We did it because we loved you, and now if it's better for you that I leave, I will." "It's not better for me, Mom. It's better for Jennifer." "Then you need to decide what's most important in your life." That night, Michael couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about his mother's words and his kids' reactions. Jennifer, beside him, was also awake but pretended to sleep. The next day, a Saturday, the tension at home was unbearable. Jennifer had scheduled a visit to the nursing home for the afternoon, and Mrs. Ruth was packing her few belongings into the plastic bag. Emily entered her grandmother's room and found her folding her old clothes. "Grandma, are you really leaving?" "I think it's for the best, my dear. But I don't want you to go. We were just starting to get to know each other better." Mrs. Ruth hugged her granddaughter, breathing in the scent of kids' shampoo in her hair. "I don't want to go either, Emily. But sometimes we have to do things we don't like to avoid hurting the people we love." "Are you talking about Dad? Your father is a good man, but he's built a life here. I can't be the reason he loses all that." Emily grew thoughtful for a moment. "Grandma, can I ask you something? Why did you never remarry after Grandpa died?" "Because true love can't be replaced, my dear. Your grandfather was the love of my life, and when he left, a part of me went with him." "But weren't you lonely?" "I had you. I had my son. That was always enough for me." "And now? Are you going to be lonely again at the nursing home?" Mrs. Ruth didn't know how to answer. The truth was, yes, she would be alone again, but she couldn't burden a 16-year-old with that. Jason appeared at the bedroom door. "Grandma, can I come in?" "Of course, my grandson." The boy approached with a drawing in his hands. "I made this for you. It's our whole family together. The crayon drawing showed their house with everyone in it. Michael, Jennifer, Emily, Jason, and right in the center, Mrs. Ruth. "It's beautiful, Jason. Thank you." "Grandma, if you leave, who's going to tell us stories?" Mrs. Ruth felt her eyes welling up with tears. "You're all grown up now. You don't need stories anymore." "But I love your stories. And who's going to teach Emily how to make sweet bread?" At that moment, Jennifer appeared at the door. "Kids, don't bother Grandma. She needs to finish packing." "Mom, please let Grandma stay," Jason pleaded. "Jason, we've already talked about this, but she's not bothering anyone," Emily insisted. "You don't understand," Jennifer said, starting to lose patience. "When you're adults with your own families, you'll see that sometimes we have to make hard decisions. Like the decision to abandon our parents when they get old," Emily shot back, surprising even herself with her boldness. Jennifer flushed with anger. "How dare you speak to me like that?" "Because it's the truth," Emily replied, standing up. "You're sending Grandma away because you're ashamed of her." "Emily, stop that," Mrs. Ruth interjected. "Don't talk to your mother like that." "But Grandma, it's true. She's ashamed of you because you're poor and sick." Jennifer stormed out of the room, leaving a heavy silence behind. That afternoon, when it was time to visit the nursing home, Mrs. Ruth came downstairs carrying her plastic bag. Michael was waiting in the living room, visibly shaken. "Ready, Mom?" "Ready." The children said goodbye to their grandmother with tight hugs and promises to visit, though everyone knew those visits would be rare. "Grandma, promise you'll call us?" Jason asked. "I promise, my grandson." Jennifer stayed in her room, claiming a headache. The nursing home was well kept. It sat in the middle of a large garden, had comfortable rooms, and a seemingly caring staff. But when Michael watched his mother being led to the room that would be her new home, he felt as though he was betraying every value she had ever taught him. "The room is nice, isn't it, Mum?" "Yes, son." Mrs. Ruth placed the plastic bag on the bed and began unpacking her few belongings. The old Bible, the yellowed photographs, the worn-out clothes. "I'll visit you every week," promised Michael. "Don't worry about me, Michael. Take care of your family." As Michael was leaving, Mrs. Ruth called out to him, "Son, I just want you to know I've never regretted any sacrifice I made for you. You've always been my greatest pride." Michael left with a broken heart. At home, the silence was deafening. The kids were visibly sad, and Jennifer tried to act normal as if nothing had happened. During dinner, Jason asked, "Dad, when are we visiting Grandma?" "Soon, son." "Tomorrow?" the boy insisted. "Jason, leave your father alone," Jennifer intervened. "You'll visit Grandma when it's convenient." "Convenient for who?" Emily challenged. "Emily, that's enough," said Michael, tired of the arguments. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Grandma alone in that strange place, with no one familiar around. She got up and went to her parents' room. "Dad, can I talk to you?" Michael was awake, staring at the ceiling. "What is it, sweetheart?" "Can I come in?" He got up, and they went to the living room so they wouldn't wake Jennifer. "What's bothering you?" "It's about Grandma. I can't stop thinking about her being alone there." "Emily, your grandma is well taken care of there." "But she's not happy, Dad. You could see it in her eyes." Michael sighed. "Sometimes we have to make hard choices in life. Like choosing between your wife and your mother. It's not that simple." "It is to me. Grandma never abandoned you, Dad. When you were little, she took care of you. Now that she's old and needs help, you abandon her." His daughter's words hurt Michael more than he expected. "Emily, you don't understand the complexities of marriage." "Yes, I do. I understand Mum gave you an ultimatum, and you chose her. Your mother is important to me too. But Grandma is your real mother. Mum is your wife, but Grandma gave you life." Michael fell silent, knowing his daughter was right. "Dad, can I ask you something? What would Grandpa Robert say if he knew you put Grandma in a nursing home?" That question hit Michael hard. His father had always said family was sacred and that children had a duty to care for their parents in old age. "He'd be disappointed in me," Michael admitted finally. "Then why don't you bring Grandma back?" "Because I'm afraid of losing Jennifer. And is it worth losing Grandma just to keep Mum? Michael looked at his teenage daughter, who was showing more maturity than he was. I'll think about what you said, Emily. On Sunday, Michael woke up with a decision made. He would bring his mother back no matter the cost. He couldn't live with the guilt of abandoning her any longer. Jennifer was in the garden, drinking coffee and reading a magazine. Jennifer, I need to talk to you. If it's about your mother, I don't want to hear it. It's exactly about her. I'm bringing her back. Jennifer set the magazine aside. Michael, don't start this again. It's not a discussion, Jennifer. It's a decision I've already made. And what about me? Don't I get a say in who lives in my house? It's our house and my mother is welcome in it. Jennifer stood up, furious. So you've made your choice. Perfect. But don't expect me to stay and watch this. What are you saying? I'm saying if you bring that woman back, I'm leaving and taking the kids with me. Michael felt like he'd been punched in the gut. You can't take my kids. Yes, I can, and I will. I won't let them grow up thinking it's normal to take care of sick old people. Jennifer, she's my mother. And I'm your wife, choose. At that moment, Emily appeared at the kitchen door. She had heard the whole argument. Mom, you can't do this, the girl said. Emily, go to your room, ordered Jennifer. I won't, I want to talk. Emily, listen to your mother, said Michael, trying to keep the situation from getting worse. Dad, she can't stop us from seeing Grandma. She's our family. Jennifer looked at her daughter with a mix of anger and surprise. Emily, you don't understand anything about this. I understand that you're being cruel to someone who's never hurt anyone. Cruel? I'm the only sensible person in this house. I'm trying to protect this family from a situation that will only get worse. Jason appeared, drawn by the raised voices. What's going on? Mom wants to stop us from seeing Grandma, explained Emily. Why? Asked Jason, genuinely confused. Jennifer felt she was losing control. Because you're kids, and you don't understand that caring for the elderly is hard work and can bring problems for the whole family. What problems? Jason insisted. Jason, your grandmother is sick. She could get worse. She might need constant medical care. What if she falls and gets hurt? What if she leaves the stove on? What if she has a heart problem in the middle of the night? The children grew thoughtful. They hadn't considered these things. Michael saw Jennifer planting doubts in them and stepped in. Jennifer, you're exaggerating. My mother isn't that sick. Isn't she? Michael, look at her properly. She's thin, weak, obviously malnourished. Those are signs she needs professional care. Care I can give her at home with the kids' help and Miss Betty's. And what about me? Does anyone ask if I want to live with a sick person in the house? Emily flared up. Mum, if you get sick, are we going to put you in a nursing home too? That's different, Emily. Why? Because you're young. What'll happen when you're old? Jennifer was momentarily speechless. When I'm old, I'll have my own money, my own resources to take care of myself. Just like Grandma did, Jason shot back, surprising everyone. What do you mean? Jennifer asked. Michael realized it was time to tell the whole truth. Jennifer, my mother sold her house to pay for my treatment when I was a child. She sacrificed everything she had for me. Jennifer fell silent, processing this. And that's why you think you owe her something? It's not about owing, it's about love. And love doesn't demand sacrifices, it just gives. That's very poetic, Michael. But does your love for me not count? Of course it does, but it's a different kind of love. The love for a wife and the love for a mother can't be compared. So you're choosing. I'm choosing to be a good son. Jennifer looked around and saw everyone was against her. The children stared at her with disappointment and surprise, and Michael had made a decision he wouldn't back down from. Fine, she said finally, but don't blame me for the consequences. That afternoon, Michael went to pick up his mother from the nursing home. She was surprised to see him so soon. Did something happen, son? I came to get you, Mom. To take you home. Mrs. Ruth hesitated. Son, yesterday you brought me here because it was best for everyone. What changed? What changed is I remembered who I really am. I'm your son, and it's my duty to take care of you. What about Jennifer? Jennifer will have to get used to it. On the way back, Mrs. Ruth was uneasy. Son, I don't want to be the reason your marriage falls apart. Mom, if my marriage can't handle me taking care of my own mother, then maybe it's not a marriage worth keeping. When they got home, the children welcomed their grandmother with excitement. Jason had made a new drawing, and Emily had set aside some of her old clothes to give to her. Jennifer watched her mother-in-law's arrival from her bedroom without going downstairs to greet her. During dinner, the tension was palpable. Jennifer ate in silence, completely ignoring Mrs. Ruth's presence. "Jennifer, aren't you even going to greet my mother?" asked Michael. "I already greeted her yesterday," she replied coldly. Mrs. Ruth felt uncomfortable. "Maybe it's better if I have dinner in my room." "Not at all, Grandma," said Emily. "You're part of this family." Jennifer dropped her fork loudly on the plate. "Enough, I can't take this hypocrisy anymore." She stood up and left the table, leaving everyone in silence. Michael followed her to the bedroom. "Jennifer, you need to at least try." "Try what? Pretend I'm happy with a situation that was forced on me?" "No one's asking you to pretend. I'm just asking you to give it a chance." "Michael, you don't understand. I'm terrified of getting old. Seeing your mother here every day reminds me that one day I'll be like that too." "Jennifer, aging is natural. It's easy for you to say. You're a man. Society doesn't expect you to always be young and beautiful." Michael was surprised by his wife's confession. "Is that what's bothering you, the fear of aging?" "That's part of it, yes. And I'm also afraid the kids will learn it's their responsibility to take care of me when I'm old." "Jennifer, would it really be so bad if they wanted to take care of you?" "Yes, because I don't want to be a burden to anyone. My mother isn't a burden. Maybe not to you, but to me she is." The conversation was interrupted by a knock on the door. "Excuse me," said Miss Betty. "Mrs. Ruth isn't feeling well." Michael and Jennifer rushed to the guest room. The elderly woman was sitting on the bed, breathing heavily with trembling hands. "Mom, what's wrong?" "Chest pain, son, and I'm very short of breath." Jennifer, despite her reluctance, approached and checked Mrs. Ruth's pulse. "It's very fast. I think we should take her to the hospital." At the hospital, after a series of tests, the doctor gave the diagnosis. "She's showing early signs of depression and anxiety, worsened by malnutrition. Nothing serious, but she needs monitoring and care." "Doctor, is it dangerous?" asked Michael. "No, as long as she's well cared for. Regular meals, anxiety medication, and most importantly, emotional support from her family." Jennifer was thoughtful on the way back home. "Michael, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Has your mother had episodes like this before?" "Not that I know of." "Why?" "The doctor said it's anxiety. Do you think it was because of our argument?" Michael didn't answer, but the response was obvious to both. At home, Mrs. Ruth went straight to her room to rest. The kids were worried about their grandmother's condition. "Dad, is Grandma going to be okay?" asked Jason. "Yes, son. She just needs care and love." Emily approached her father. "Dad, did Grandma get sick because of us?" "No, sweetheart. It was the circumstances. But now she's here with us, and we'll take good care of her." That night, Jennifer lay awake thinking. She had married Michael because she admired him as a man of character, and now she was seeing that part of that character came from the values his mother had taught him. The next morning, she made a decision that surprised everyone. She prepared a breakfast tray and took it to Mrs. Ruth's room. "Good morning," she said timidly as she entered. Mrs. Ruth was surprised. "Good morning, Jennifer. I brought you breakfast." "Thank you, but you didn't have to trouble yourself." Jennifer placed the tray on the nightstand and sat in the chair by the bed. "Mrs. Ruth, can I talk to you?" "Of course. I want to apologize for my behavior. It wasn't fair to you." Mrs. Ruth was taken aback by her daughter-in-law's change of heart. "Jennifer, you don't need to apologize. I understand my presence here complicates things." "It doesn't. I was the one being selfish." "Why did you change your mind?" Jennifer sighed. "Because I realized I was being cruel to someone who never did me any harm, and because I saw how much the kids like you. And you? Can you accept me being here? Jennifer hesitated for a moment. I'm learning. It won't be easy for me, but I want to try. Why? Because I love my husband, and I know he needs to have peace of mind regarding you. Mrs. Ruth smiled for the first time since arriving at the house. Thank you, Jennifer. I promise I'll try not to be a bother. You're not a bother. I'm the one who struggles with certain situations. From that day on, the household dynamic began to change gradually. Jennifer didn't show enthusiasm, but she also didn't show hostility. She greeted her mother-in-law, sometimes asked how she was doing, and even complimented the sweet bread Mrs. Ruth had taught Emily to make. The kids were relieved to see the tension ease. Jason started telling his friends at school about the stories his grandma told, and Emily posted a photo on Instagram with the caption, "My dear grandma." Ms. Betty was especially happy with the change. She had developed a genuine fondness for the elderly woman and had been sad to see her suffering. "Mrs. Ruth, you look much better," the housekeeper remarked one afternoon as they baked cookies together. "It's true, Miss Betty, I feel at home here. And Mrs. Jennifer? And how are things with her?" "Getting better little by little. I think she was afraid of something and is now overcoming it." A week later, something happened that would permanently change the relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Jennifer was coming down the stairs when she felt dizzy and lost her balance. Mrs. Ruth, who was in the living room, rushed to help her. "Jennifer, are you okay?" "I think so. I just got dizzy." Mrs. Ruth helped her daughter-in-law sit on the couch and brought her a glass of water. "Have you been eating properly?" "I've had little appetite these past few days." "Since when?" Jennifer hesitated. "Since the problems at home started." Mrs. Ruth sat beside her daughter-in-law. "Jennifer, can I ask you something personal?" "Go ahead." "What bothers you so much about me being here?" Jennifer took a deep breath. "I'm afraid of getting old, Mrs. Ruth. I'm terrified of becoming dependent on others." "And that's why you don't want me here?" "Yes, because when I see you, I see my future." Mrs. Ruth was thoughtful for a moment. "Jennifer, can I tell you something?" "Sure. When I was your age, I was also afraid of growing old, but you know what I learned?" "What?" "That old age isn't a disease. It's an achievement. Every wrinkle on my face represents a life experience, every gray hair a lesson learned." Jennifer listened quietly. "And you know what else I learned? That those who grow old surrounded by love never truly grow old." "How so?" "Look at me. I'm 68, but when I'm with my grandkids, I feel like I'm 20. Love keeps us young inside." Jennifer began to cry. "Mrs. Ruth, forgive me for being so cruel to you. You don't need to apologize, my dear. You just need to let me help you overcome this fear." "How?" "By letting me show you that growing old can be beautiful when you have a family who loves you." Just then, Michael came home from work and found the two women talking on the couch. "Is everything okay here?" "Yes," Jennifer replied, wiping her tears. "Your mother and I were just talking." From that day on, Jennifer began to see Mrs. Ruth in a new light. She began to notice her mother-in-law's wisdom, the patience with which she handled the children, and the gratitude she showed for any kindness. 2 weeks later, on a Sunday afternoon, Jennifer surprised everyone by suggesting they prepare a special lunch to celebrate Mrs. Ruth's improvement. "We could make that chicken pot pie recipe Grandma taught Emily," she suggested. The kids were thrilled with the idea, and Mrs. Ruth was moved to see she was finally being accepted by her daughter-in-law. During lunch, Jennifer gave a short speech. "Mrs. Ruth, I want to take this moment to publicly apologize for my behavior. It wasn't fair to you or to my family. Jennifer, you don't have to—" "Yes, I do. And I want everyone to know that from now on, you're not just welcome in this house. You're part of this family." The children clapped. Michael got emotional and Mrs. Ruth cried with happiness. "Thank you, my dear," she said, using the affectionate term for the first time. "Thank you, Grandma, for teaching me that love has no age limit." That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Mrs. Ruth stayed in the living room, looking at the family photos now decorating the shelf. For the first time in a long while, she felt truly at home. Michael came downstairs for water and found her there. "Mom can't sleep." "Oh, I can, son. I was just thinking about how lucky I am." "Lucky? To have a son like you and a family like this." "Mom, I'm the lucky one to have you." They hugged, and Michael felt he had finally found the balance between being a good husband and a good son. A few months later, the house had completely transformed. Mrs. Ruth had become the heart of the family. She helped the kids with their homework, telling stories that made learning more interesting. She taught Jennifer traditional recipes, who discovered she had a talent for cooking. And she gave Michael the peace of mind of knowing he was fulfilling his duty as a son. The peak of this change came on Mrs. Ruth's 69th birthday. Jennifer organized a surprise party, even inviting some neighbors who had grown fond of the kind-hearted woman. "Mrs. Ruth," Jennifer said during the celebration, "I never imagined you'd become one of the most important people in my life." "Jennifer, you've become the daughter I never had," Mrs. Ruth replied, moved. The kids gifted their grandmother a photo album they had put together themselves, documenting the family story since she had arrived. "Grandma, this has all our memories together," Jason explained. "And there's room for so many more," Emily added. Michael, seeing his mother surrounded by love and care, knew he had made the right decision. His family was now complete, with 3 generations living in harmony. "Mom," he said, raising a glass of soda in a toast, "thank you for teaching me that family is everything. Thank you, son, for never giving up on me." Jennifer joined them and raised her glass. "And thank you for teaching me that true love doesn't fear time," she said to her mother-in-law. The party went on late into the night, filled with laughter, stories, and warmth. When everyone finally went to sleep, Mrs. Ruth stayed on the porch for a while, gazing at the stars and feeling grateful for such a special family. In the next room, Michael and Jennifer talked in bed. "Michael, thank you for not giving up on your mom," Jennifer said, "and thank you for opening your heart to her." "You know what amazes me most about her?" "What?" "Her ability to forgive. I was so cruel, and she welcomed me as if nothing had happened. That's a mother's love, Jennifer. The purest kind there is. I hope that when I get old, our children will take care of me with the same kindness you're showing her. They will, because we're teaching by example. And what if I get sick? What if I need special care? Then we'll take care of you, just like we're taking care of my mother." Jennifer smiled, feeling a peace she hadn't known in a long time. "Now I understand why I love you so much." "Why?" "Because you show me every day what it means to be a good person." In the guest room, Mrs. Ruth also reflected on the past few months. She had gone from being rejected to being loved and respected. More than that, she had managed to bring together a family that was falling apart. She picked up her old Bible and read a passage that always comforted her in hard times. Then, she closed her eyes and slept the peaceful sleep of someone who knows they're exactly where they belong. The next morning, as had become routine, the whole family had breakfast together. Mrs. Ruth had made pancakes, Jason talked about a school project, Emily showed pictures from the party on her phone, Michael planned the weekend, and Jennifer organized the week's schedule. It was a simple scene, but it meant so much more than just a family eating breakfast. It stood for love, respect, unity, and the certainty that no matter what challenges life brought, they would always have each other. Miss Betty, watching from the kitchen, smiled in satisfaction. She had witnessed the family's entire transformation and knew this was the true meaning of home. "Miss Betty," Mrs. Ruth called, "come have breakfast with us." "No need, Mrs. Ruth, I've already eaten." "Come anyway, you're part of this family too." And so, with one more person joining the table, Michael's family grew even closer and more welcoming. Looking back, Michael could hardly believe he had once considered abandoning his mother. Now seeing her there, telling stories to her grandchildren and swapping recipes with his wife, he knew he'd made the right choice. Mrs. Ruth, in turn, had found not just a place to live, but a true home where she could grow old with dignity and love. And Jennifer had learned the most important lesson of her life, that true love knows no age, fears no time, and multiplies when shared. The children, Emily and Jason, would grow up knowing the value of family and gratitude, carrying these lessons into their own lives when the time came. That little house in the Upper East Side had become so much more than a residence. It had become proof that when love prevails, all differences can be overcome and all wounds can be healed. And so 3 generations of a family proved that respecting elders and caring for those who gave us life are values that never go out of style, even in fast-paced modern times. The story of Mrs. Ruth, Michael, Jennifer, Emily, and Jason would serve as an example to many other families that it's never too late to rebuild bonds, ask for forgiveness, and choose love above any difference. End of story. Now tell me, what did you think of this touching story? Did Jennifer make the right decision in the end? Have you ever experienced something similar in your own family? Leave your honest comment below, sharing your experience and thoughts on this family's transformation. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other heartwarming stories like this one.